Hello and welcome to another of my YouTube videos where I talk about things that most people would find quite boring. I have a bit of a penchant for vintage electrics, especially the items that we often ignore in our lives or push to the side too easily. In particular, lamps. I've got this lamp here, some of you may recognise it, some of you may not. If you have a relative in their autumn years, you'll probably find one of these stashed away in their garage. This is the Briticent Gripper 2, as it is known. Produced by Briticent in England. I believe they are still making lighting for work sites and so forth today. This particular example was recovered from my granddad's garage. I found it stashed in a tiny cupboard under there a few years after he passed away. Fun fact, he was the mayor of Leamington for one term, so perhaps this lamp has some fame to it. I have another example I actually use in my garage, which was recovered from my friend's deceased granddad, and my father himself had one at one point in time. So they're a very common lamp. As I say, most people had them. I can't really date it, but at best guess I believe they're around in the 1950s and the 1960s, possibly a bit later, possibly afterwards as well. But they're a really nice looking lamp, and I would imagine thousands of them have been thrown away. They've got a really strong, and this is why I still have one in my garage, really strong grip, which you just do not get on any sort of inspection lamp nowadays. And that's the big appeal to them. The lights are directional as well. You can move the panel at the back, you can move the cage around so that the light goes where you need it to. And again, with a lot of the modern lights, you just can't hang them in the right place, they move, etc, etc. And of course this just takes a standard BC bulb, so you can fit a super bright LED bulb in there, no problem at all. So I've got a bit of a plan for this one. I don't require two in my garage. I'm going to turn this into a little bit of architectural lighting. It does have a nice vintage appeal to it, industrial look. I'm going to use this in my conservatory. I'm going to use the clamp to clamp onto a vintage piece of furniture I have in there. We're going to rewire it with fabric, reproduction fabric cable. So it can clip on the wall, the brown fabric cable can drape down, and it can have a nice LED filament style bulb in it. That's the overall picture. But obviously it's kind of in an as found condition. I've destroyed the mains lead that was left on it because it was going to come off anyway, made it easier to transport, and here it is now. These were provided in kit form, so my granddad would have probably built this when he bought it, as was the fashion at the time, so we're simply going to debuild it. So we'll just undo the cage here, and that will all fall off as one. The bulb can be replaced without removing the cage, simply by lifting the lid. This panel at the back is designed to stop light as opposed to reflect it, and just a little bit of tin, slide that out. We can clean that up, and we can use some high heat white paint to bring that back to its factory fittings, factory original state. Obviously he's put a 100-watt bulb in there. We'll get rid of that because we only use LED nowadays in my life. And you're left with the gripping part and the bulb holder part. Really good design. It's a green Bakelite, you can't really make that out in this. You can see it would have originally been a nice dark green. It's been a little bit burnt from the 100-watt bulb, but we can clean most of that up. Okay, and inside there we have a ceramic BC bulb holder. And we can't go any further than that without taking a little bit of action. So let's see what we need to do. The cable's strain relieved by being wrapped around the base and tucked under. Let's undo that. We'll take an extra measure when we rebuild this to stop the cable getting damaged, and we'll be using, as I said, reproduction fabric cable, which you may or may not be familiar with. If I push that in through the hole there, the bulb base begins to lift out. And we can now access the terminal screws, which I can hopefully get in with this. Perfect. We'll loosen that. We'll loosen that. Okay, so there's your bulb holder, made in England, a Gripper 2. Nice ceramic unit, that'll just keep going forever no matter how hot it gets. Yeah, they're still springing, they're in good condition. No maintenance work required to that. So we can pull this scrap of cable out now. As you can see, after being wrapped around, it just simply pushes through a hole where it lands up in there. Okay, there we go. Okay, now you'll see the earth cable won't come out. The earth cable is neatly put through there, goes underneath, comes out a tiny hole there, and it is then crimped onto a little crimp and is held into the gripper handle itself. In this case, it looks like he's put an Allen key headed bolt in, but I believe as standard these came with a flat headed screw. That is another part of the good design of these lamps. This is actually the Briticent logo. There's a hand in a light bulb and it says above it, symbol of safety. Really good for the time. Obviously this lamp has a massive exposed metal clips. Some of the lesser manufacturers would probably have not bothered putting a protective earth on this, but this is super safe, safely earthed as well as any modern device. Bonus in my opinion is that you can actually see the earth connection. So in some devices, if they were earthed, you wouldn't be able to see it, but here you can see this to ensure that earth's making a good connection, which is obviously really, really important, especially when using these vintage items. So what we'll do in my next video is strip it apart. Well, after we've stripped it apart, we shall offer a little clean up to it. We've got to go a little bit further before we can get to that stage, however. Underneath where the ceramic bulb holder was is 3 little rubber bungs. Again, and really, I wouldn't say revolutionary, but a really nice little design feature. Again, some lamps of the time wouldn't bother with this little feature. It is achieving nothing except for just being another layer of protection against any live parts getting onto this handle. So you've got the earth to provide electrical protection should it become live, but then they've put these preventative measures in here so as to try and reduce the risk of that happening at all. So now, having lifted these little bungs, I'll just pop them out, undo these 3 brass screws. They really are quite beautiful. Really is starting to smell of old garages now, as grease and so forth is coming out of it. Okay, so there you can actually see the cable routing better. It's designed to take the flex in there, live neutral go up there, earth runs out down a little gully. We'll set that down. Here we go, we can now see the bottom of the bulb surround. It's been chipped a little bit badly, just says the same on it, something similar, registered trademark gripper. Has been kicked around a bit, but it's all part of the character. We'll set that there, we'll set the 3 brass screws there. And as you can see, we're just left with a base and the handle, which, as I say, with the earth cable still attached to it, simply because I don't have an Allen key to hand to undo that. But that's how modular this lamp is. And in my next video we'll get it all clean, really nice and clean as best we can, and then in a few videos time I will demonstrate to you little bits like rebuilding the back plate and wiring it up and getting it in situ. So if you're interested in this old junk, just keep an eye on my channel and we shall see how it goes. Big shout out to Job, my friend at work, who is also into this old rubbish, so hope you're enjoying this, man. Okay, see you next time.